Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of Parenting Autism. We're your hosts, Sandy and Chris Coulter. How
Hi.
you doing, baby?
Fantastic.
So, for those who don't know, this is our seventh attempt to lead into this episode, and
Take
it's been
7.
quite funny. But anyway, we're going to make through this time, and we just got a lot that we want to share. We haven't been on the air for a few weeks, and we haven't been home for a couple of weeks. We had family visiting from Maryland, which was wonderful. Chris's brothers came down to Florida, and we had some time with them. And then on the heels of that, we were readjusting to life, and you pay, you play kind of thing. And then Bryce was sick this week, but we're here now, and we wanted to share some stuff. And we're going to talk today about our marriage, because I've had some questions coming in that's saying, I've had some compliments about our marriage and our relationship and how they observe us with Bryce. And then I've had questions about, how do you guys keep your marriage strong? And how do you do that when you have so much going on with the child on the spectrum? So
How do we do it?
Talk about it. And there's the $1 million question. I don't think it's one easy answer, that's for sure. But I thought maybe we'd even give a little backdrop to our relationship, because I do believe that it does help if you have a strong foundation before autism comes into your world. Because if it was already a shaky foundation and the relationship already had cracks in it, then that could certainly, cause further damage. I could see that.
Yeah. And, if there's a positive thing to being divorced twice before,
Right.
I think it's that we've navigated those waters. We know what was wrong in those relationships, and we know how to do a good relationship now. And I don't know.
I agree with that.
There's something to that. That's not to tell everybody to go out and get divorced twice before you get married.
It is not highly recommended, but I do think that, there's that song that we're singing in church right now, and it talks about what the enemy meant for evil, God takes and uses for good. Mm-hmm. That really resonates with me, because I feel like that has always been something I've been sensitive to personally, is having gone through relationships that failed. Mm-hmm. That affected me, because in my personal life, I've always had great success in my jobs, in my career, and so many things. But, when it came to marriages, they failed. And, that's just the word of it, because that's the reality. It didn't continue. Now, was that my fault? Was that their fault? You don't even have to get into all that. It still just feels like a failure. Mm-hmm. And then you start to question yourself. And then, that rolls over into our relationship, and I can't think those kind of thoughts. But I think it's all what you take from a bad situation, and you let God turn it for good. And I think I'm just now really starting to see that He can turn this for good, because I've always wondered why I had to go through the things I went through. Mm-hmm. Because in my case, there was abuse, and there was a lot of bad things that happened. And why did those things happen? And I tried to learn from those. And but then there's a sense of shame that kind of comes with all of that, and a sense of insecurity going into a new relationship. And so I can see now that God has taken all of that to prepare me for where I am right now, and where He's wanting us to go forward. Because I really feel like He's calling us to not just share about parenting autism, but also to share about our marriage. I am feeling that.
And I think part of the issue for my prior 2 attempts was that God was not in the relationship. God was not even part of the prior marriages. And now that I know God he's first. And that makes a big difference.
For us, it makes a world of difference. And so we met when we were in our mid-30s, and we had a mutual friend. And at that time, when she kept saying, actually, I knew of you and I had met you before, but you became quote unquote available. And I was quote unquote available. So our friend wanted to be matchmaker and said, oh, you two would be perfect for each other. But I was just not in a good place. That you were such a nice guy. Honestly, you were such a nice guy. And I'm like, oh, I just don't want to hurt him, because I felt like that was me. I felt like I didn't have the Midas touch. Everything didn't turn to gold. Everything turned to crap. Yeah. So it was like, I didn't want to hurt you. I really didn't. I knew you had already been through enough. So I felt like dating me was not a great idea for either of us, but I did say that I was in a good place where we could be friends, like really good friends. And we had made this agreement. You help me understand guys. I'll help you understand girls, that sort of thing. And we had gotten the Purpose Driven Life book by Rick Warren. And so you would come to my condo every Monday night.
Yep.
And we would go over a chapter. And we really started to just grow our friendship in that way, which was really cool. And we had done some other things, like, we never really quote unquote dated. All our dates were when we were in the friend zone, which is kind of funny. Yeah. But, occasionally we go to a show or we go to dinner or something like that. But I feel like when we started getting deeper into life, and talking about life, that's where we started to bond. And then that was 2004 was the year that the hurricanes came through our area, like back to back. And at that time, I had sold my house and I was living over on the island. And I just remember you helping me. And I looked at you in kind of a different light. Like, I saw your heart. And I knew before you had such a good heart, which is why I didn't want to hurt it. But at that point, I was like, you know what? I could not find somebody better for me than this man right here. So why am I so resistant? But the bad news was I had convinced you that, you were good by yourself. Because you needed that. You did. Because
single is better than married.
Single was better because I didn't want you to feel what I was teaching you was what I had learned. You can't you just can lean on God and yourself, and not another person. That's what we were learning. So then you were like, I don't think I'm ready for this, So I was like, okay, that's okay. You're about 3 or 4 months behind me. So you'll be ready in about 3 or 4 months. But it was really neat how all that worked. So it's sharing this because I feel like that's an important part of our story, was building a solid foundation. It wasn't built on me seeing you across the room and saying, oh, wow, he's hot. And not that you're not hot, because you are. But, it wasn't like one of those things where it was all chemistry.
Right.
And, the next thing you know, you're all heated up somewhere. That did not happen with us. It was forming a really strong foundation of friendship and even really kind of centered around the Lord, because that's when you became a Christian during that time. So, it was pretty neat, and it was a slow process. But then once we knew, and we got married, and we had so much fun traveling. And I got, the travel bug was great. We went to a lot of different places. I know I'm talking a lot here. You can chime in anytime.
Well, I'm thinking when you said that we traveled a lot, and that was a lot of fun when we were in that phase, and we weren't thinking about kids. I don't even think we were thinking about having kids.
Nope.
Like, we were good with no kids.
I think we had a very minor discussion and said, how do you feel about it? And I said, I didn't personally want to take birth control, and you didn't want to have any snippy snip. So we said, whatever will be, will be. That's how we left it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had already been barren for so many years. It was really not a concern.
Yeah. So when Bryce came along, obviously that whole dynamic changed, and the travel slowed way down, and we kind of got busy with life, and and raising a kiddo.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you have a child, it's going to affect your marriage anyway. And you would hope that it would bring you closer together because you've created this beautiful life together. But sometimes, especially if you've had a close relationship before the children, you can feel like you're losing your spouse a little bit if one or the other gets too wrapped up in being the parent and forgetting to nurture, who helped make you a parent.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I definitely can see how that happens. But I don't think that really happened with us. We drew really closer, and it's probably just because of Bryce's story and situation with, him having so many health issues from the beginning with his stroke and everything. But, how did autism specifically shift the dynamic in our marriage? I think it has. I think it was something that wasn't like obvious and within a day or so. I think it was something that was like a slow fade that just kind of gradually changed. And I know we shared an episode about your depression, which definitely affected our marriage. And, I've heard enough other people share their stories that there's usually one, if not two, parents that experience depression when they get the diagnosis of their child going through autism. It's hard. It's not an easy diagnosis to receive.
Being sad all the time was not fun.
No. And being around sadness and trying to keep things positive is also not fun. So, that's why we recognize that. And so the great news was that we were both on the same page at this time last year, recognizing that, it's just not the same between us. I'm not saying it's bad because it wasn't. You and I are not the type that yell at each other. We don't raise our voices.
We don't throw things.
We definitely don't throw things. In fact, if anything, we probably internalize a little more, and that can be equally dangerous because if you're not sharing that you have problems, then that can just all kind of, be more like a volcano, and one day it just erupts and you had no idea that there was even an issue.
Yeah, the communication thing is huge. So you have to find time to be alone where you can talk and, talk about serious things, talk about fun things, talk about everything. I think communication's probably the number one, besides having God in the relationship, but communication between you and God, and then communication between each other. Those are two main things. If you don't have those, in our case, it just
agree.
would not be good.
And we talk about communication, and I'm talking about how you communicate, not just verbally, but even your body language and things like that. I mean, we had something that the other day. I remember real specifically. We were at the condo with your family, and Bryce wanted to go down to the hot tub with us. And so he wanted to come, and I'm like, no, you can't go, buddy. You can stay up here. And I think you told him, I forget what you told him, but anyway, it all cleared up real quickly, but I could see that you were upset. And so then when we got to the elevator, I said, he's fine. We told him he had to be 18 or something to do it, and he accepted that.
And daddies,
and you said, well, I didn't say anything. And I'm like, well, you verbally didn't say anything, but your body language totally told me that you were upset. And then it came out some things that you were upset about, and then we were able to discuss it, and then we put it aside. But that's what I'm talking about right there. If you're going to have a good, successful marriage, I was proud of myself for not just ignoring that, and I called it out in a nice way.
I don't think it was about Bryce, though.
No, you had something else, but your body language was telling me that you were upset. We know the details of that is not important.
Right.
What's important is I knew you were upset. You were saying, I didn't say anything, because in your mind, as long as you didn't verbally say something, it was okay. But it wasn't, because the way you were behaving and acting was like, I knew you were upset.
Right.
You know
In my mind,
mean?
it's like if you're upset, sometimes it's better not to say anything at the moment, you know?
True. And I'm a big believer in not just shooting off the mouth too. But I guess what I'm really trying to make the point here is that it's going to help our marriage, and for other people who are listening and wondering how, you got to go into the deeper layer sometime. Now, pick your timing. If I felt you were really hot, you know what I mean, like really upset, I wouldn't provoke because you can't do that. But if it's nothing really serious is going on, and it's like, just if there's something going on, tell me, because that wasn't that big of a deal, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes so I'm trying to just say, you might not be saying things with your mouth, but if you're saying things with your expressions or with your body language, you're still communicating to your spouse. And I think people don't realize that's also communication, which ironically in this world of autism should.
Okay, yeah. And I think that, you know, a lot of times when guys get upset, they like to go into the man cave, you know, like, don't talk to me. And I think as a guy, we need that space and time to think it through ourselves before we talk about it, or if we want to talk about it. So then, you know, then the woman or, you know, spouse can ask about it, and then we might be ready to talk about it later, type thing. So, I mean, you had good timing with that when you talked to me about it, but sometimes guys, we just internalize it, like you said, so that we can think about what happened and how do we prevent that from happening next time, and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's great insight because, you know, every person processes information differently, and you have to know your spouse well enough to know how they process information, and then you have to give that respect, you know. And generally with relationships that we've learned is women want to feel loved, men want to feel respected. Seems to be an internal wiring. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And, you know, I'll go one step further is, you know, going out to dinner where you're by yourselves, or doing an activity, a fun activity by yourselves, going to a movie, or, I don't know, go ride go-karts or something. Those are great opportunities to bring things up that might be bothering you, or that you've seen the other person, you know, upset but not say anything, because those are out of the house. You know, you're in, I don't want to say neutral territory, but you're just together alone somewhere else other than the house, other than with your kids. And I think it's better.
It's easier to talk.
Yeah, it's easier to talk without interruption. Yeah. Because when you're having a serious discussion and you're interrupted by one of your kids, it could be really at a bad point in the discussion, and it may even make things worse. And then you get mad at your kid, or
you leave it hanging, and then you're misunderstanding something because someone didn't get to finish their thought, and then you overthink it. And I that's a really good point. Of course, you don't want to. Sometimes, like, if you rarely get to go out, then the last thing you want to do is cause waves when you go. When you finally get to go out and do something fun.
Yeah, but you can't have as much fun if you still have that on your mind.
And that's a really good point, because, you know, you can't just mask it and keep burying whatever it is. So I think that's where this year, 2019, we've done a lot of peeling the onion, you know, so to speak. And we've really gone into deeper layers of, like, what you were thinking and what I was thinking, and being able to help our communication and keeping us on the same page. And I do feel like our marriage has become stronger this year. I also feel that, as strange as it is, you know, that autism has even helped us become stronger, because it's kind of, I don't know, we've unified our lives to make the best life for Bryce. Mm-hmm. And it makes us stronger that way. You know what I mean? is like team culture all the way. And we are here for Bryce and getting on the same page as to what is best for Bryce. Now, that's a whole other challenge in marriage.
Sure.
And for parenting is, you're thinking one thing, I'm thinking another thing. Thankfully, you and I have pretty similar ideas.
And we're able to compromise. Compromise is huge,
Yes.
So, I mean, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. If it's something simple that the other person wants to try, or, it's temporary, you go along with it and see what happens. You never know.
I think that is so wise, and it's very true. And we've definitely had those situations. In fact, we're kind of in the midst of one right now where we're discussing with his supplements. Mm-hmm. And, which direction do we go? Don't know. I was looking at a different way to maybe go, but, we just got to kind of get on the same page. But
right.
Being open to the other's ideas and not just shutting them down.
Right.
That's what we're talking about with the respect and the love. Don't just shut your partner down, right?
Yeah, and let's just say the supplement, for example, you're looking at one that's kind of like an all-in-one supplement. And my take is okay, well, he's getting everything that he needs now. Why go to an all-in-one when my engineer critical mind says that, okay, we're getting the purest form of vitamin C and vitamin D and fish oil all separately, and we know they're from good companies, and we're just giving them to Bryce each individually, mixed in his juice or whatever, as opposed to all-in-one supplement, which has different amounts of different things in it as a twice a day deal. So, and that's what we're looking at. So that my argument was, we've already got this down. We've found the companies that do our supplements, and we're comfortable. And then Sandy heard about an all-in-one, and she wants to try it. And I'm okay. Why not try it? It's maybe it's a 30 or 60 day deal.
Right.
It's worth trying.
Well, and my thoughts behind it was, I've known about it for a while, but then I was really thinking of you, which you said it's not a big deal, but I thought, boy, it would be easier if it was just as effective to just have one instead of 6, different things. And cost also factors in there because it's something we pay for out of pocket. So if it was just as effective and it was easier, remember our word we've already claimed for 2020, simplify? Simplify. That would fall under the category of simplify if it is effective. And it's a not to hurt him, but I appreciate that we're trying to look out for each other, because really I was looking out for you as much as it was for Bryce, to just try to simplify, because that's it. So yeah, I feel like that's where it's a good example of our marriage and our relationship, is where we can bring these things to each other and nothing blows out of proportion. Right. It's not questioning anything you've done, because I so appreciate all the research and all you've done.
Listen, if you brought up something like that and I blew a cork on it, then there's something else underlying in the relationship that is causing that. Right. So you shouldn't be spouting off every time somebody has a suggestion or, wants to do something. So that's an indicator of another different underlying problem. So true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the communication is definitely something that has helped us. And I think like I was saying, this year, we've really honed in on communicating better and more effectively. And if I feel like we're not, and I'm glad that you said this again today about the man cave thing, because I know there's truth to that. And I forget that sometimes.
Yeah. And I don't have a man cave.
Well, you don't have a physical one in our house, but somewhere in your brain.
I retreat to this one part of my brain.
Yeah, I know, right? You don't have the designated room. No safe space. Yeah. So,
maybe that's what they should rename the man caves.
A safe space
for men.
That's it.
A manly space.
Oh my goodness. But I do need that reminder because, I have to remember sometimes you just need
You have to process
that
it.
space and to
Guys,
process that.
women, they process things with their lips. They talk it out.
That's true. I talk it out.
You have it's
With my
it's in
lips.
all kind of
But that's
studies
funny,
that
yes.
women have more words than men each day. There's you all speak 4 times the amount that guys do, and guys think about things and women talk about them. So that's
true.
That's pretty much.
Men are headlines, women
men
provide all the details.
Yes, men are headlines and women are the newspaper.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
So, yeah. And, and I think keeping that fresh in your mind is a good thing because I also find that observing, if there's a disagreement between couples, or even if I feel it, it's because expectations aren't met. So if you're expecting something from your partner or your spouse that's not even them, or that isn't the reality, then you're going to be disappointed and upset because they're not doing things the way you want them done. They're not communicating the way you want. They're not, helping your child the way you want or what you think is best. But you have to, again, respect each other's opinions.
Yeah, and if you just think those thoughts and not communicate them, that just makes it even worse.
Yeah. Or if, I've seen this a lot where, okay, so we do photography for families. And so we will have a slideshow going on. And the wife, this is normally how it goes down, the wife will say to the husband, well, which one do you like? I don't care. You can choose it. No, I want you to choose it. Which one do you like best? Do you like this one or that one? And he doesn't want to say it. No, you choose. It's all about you.
The wife has already decided the one that she likes.
Yeah, and she'll say, but which one do you want? And he'll say, okay, I really like that one. Do you? Huh. No, I think I want the other one. Now, she just totally set him up to knock him down.
Right.
And they don't even realize they're doing it while Chris and I are trying to be marriage counselors. It's okay. We love what you love about,
Yeah.
But I have seen that more than once and it happens.
I don't think they do it on purpose.
No, not at all.
The wife or woman knows.
She really wants him involved.
Yes.
But she wants him to affirm what she wants.
God bless him if he picks the correct picture.
Yes.
Because he's a winner. But if he picks the
50-50
wrong
shot.
one, then
It really happens.
he'll get a small one for his office that he likes.
That does usually
It won't
happen.
be the big one on the wall.
No, he gets the little 5x7. But I think she's probably wanting him to say the one that she already has her mind on.
Right.
So
that's
that
it.
he's affirming it. Mm-hmm. And then when he doesn't, she doesn't usually say no. It's usually really? And then he's like, well, you asked me my opinion, Yeah. So I think that is a great example of how relationships can be. You ask their opinion, but then you shoot it down, and you can't just do that. You have to, if you really don't want their opinion, then don't ask it. Seriously.
And I'm probably speaking for most guys is that, we let a lot of things slide because we don't want to cause a scene or an argument, So a small thing like what's your favorite picture, go ahead, hon, you pick it out because that's not worth going down the rabbit hole for, So, and, I guess what the wife could say is, honey, which one do you like of number 3 and number 4? I like number 3 because, I don't have my double chin in that one, or
my hair looks
my
better.
hair looks great. Tell me which one you like. And, I suppose most guys would probably be like, well, I like that same one, hon.
You look beautiful.
Yeah.
That would be the wise thing to say.
Or,
But
if you want to be truthful, then the guy could say, well, I like number 4 because little Joey is smiling really big in that one, and it's perfect. And then Sandy will say, oh, well, what I can do is take Joey's smile from number 4 and put it on number 3, and then everything will be all fine.
because I can do that. And it does
like,
save
okay,
marriages. Thank you very
yay.
much. So they're paying for marriage therapy, not just photographs.
I know, right? It's funny. But anyway, that's a little sidetrack.
But I think it is really a valid point, like how men and women think and process things. And if you're going to have a strong relationship, you just have to learn how to communicate and not to set your spouse up to unintentionally be hurt,
Right.
like that sort of thing. And so then, you throw autism into this and making decisions that the average parent doesn't have to make. That can add stress in a whole other way, because this world being the autism journey, it's constantly full of new decisions to be made.
Let me just back up
1
second before we get into the autism thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed, and I highly recommend, if your church has a marriage class or whatever, just join it.
Yep.
If anything else, you get to spend more time together. So just think about that for a minute. But when we did Reengage at church, I would say 8 out of 10 times the couples that showed up, the ones that didn't think they were the problem ended up being the problem person in the relationship, and they were like, wow, because the information was presented to them in a way where they could realize that, yes, they were blaming their spouse for their issues, and we were able to shed light on issues that we didn't even know that we had, type of thing, and it really helped the couples that went through that journey with us. And so don't think that type of class can't help you, because it will open your eyes to things in the relationship that you didn't even recognize. And I just wanted to say that.
I think that's great. And I'll just make one more point on that, and then we'll go to the autism part of it. But they had a hula hoop that they put on the table in the very beginning for a visual. And they kept saying, as you're going through this and as topics come up, stay inside the circle. Don't look outside the circle. Don't look at your spouse. Don't look at other people, because it's very easy to deflect blame. Just look at yourself, and how does this apply to you? And I've had that come with us. If I'm getting upset about something, I will be like, ooh, let me hop back in that circle, and what can I do differently? How can I change? Instead of trying to change your mind or saying something about you, well, how can I change? And I think that was really, really one of the best lessons that I took from that I can apply to my life every day and remember, how can I do something different? Because I do like that mantra, control what you can control, because you can't control other people and you can't control what they're going to do. And when you try to, all you're doing is setting yourself up for potential frustration and damage. But you can control what you do, and you can control how you speak, and I know my tone comes out in ways I don't want it to come out, and that's something I'm going to keep working on, and just have that awareness, because I don't ever want to come out with a harsh tone or I want my words to come out in a loving way. And I'm not talking like, gushy. I'm just talking about with respect and with caring and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's really good. Always looking at ourselves and not just always looking at the other was a really good lesson for me.
Yeah.
And then I was going to say, and then you bring this into the autism and all the decisions that we have to make. It can definitely test your relationship, because getting in agreement on decisions to be made, and what you're going to do. And, we've talked about that kind of stuff.
I'd go as far as to say that autism would probably magnify any issues that you have going on in your relationship.
Absolutely.
So if you've got pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying at the very beginning. If you don't have a good foundation and then you go into this world, if you already got cracks, it's not good. But that's not to say that there's not hope, because there's always hope. But you have to get help, and there's no shame in getting help. And, we had the resource through our church, which was wonderful. So, and I know our church invited couples that didn't even attend our church. So, wherever you're at, you can just look and see if there's anything remotely in your area, or there's marriage conferences that you can go to. And, I think asking for help, I know there's psychiatrists or marriage counselors or other people that may be helpful too. We have found that a Bible-based one has been, and it was very Bible-based, and it's kind of hard to argue with the Bible.
I think I nudged you to take it with me.
Actually, you sent me the email, and I saw it the same day because I got the email, and I was going to ask you, but you sent it to me first, which was great because having us both wanting to do it made it 100% easier.
And going into it, we're like, well, what are we going to get out of this? Maybe we'll get a couple of things out of it because we got a great marriage.
Yeah.
And, we do have a good marriage, but we took more out of it than we thought we would. And
we did.
Some people were on the brink of divorce, and it brought their marriage back to life. And that was,
and we got to witness
which is pretty
really cool.
neat to see. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I'm probably going to go ahead and say it, but we've been asked to be leaders going into this next year. And I do feel like that's where I was saying earlier in this podcast that what the enemy meant for evil, God can use for good. I never in a million years thought that God would be able to use me to help couples with marriages, because I felt like obviously that was not my strength, although he's helping me see that, no, I did a lot of right things, and he used this to help me to get to you. And
your personal experiences will help others.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really coming full circle for me, which it's kind of pretty fresh. So I have a little choke in my throat, but it's good. It's good. God's moving in our house and in our family and doing good things. So I think the other thing that I was just going to share on this too is just kind of give you encouragement with all relationships. And obviously, with your spouse and the parent of your child. We had an example that was given to us at church that was a really good visual, but it was talking about a glass, and a glass is full of air. And he
There's only one way to get air out of the glass.
And that's pouring water into it. And you could pour it halfway up, and yes, you got rid of half of the air, but there's still a lot of air that could potentially cause problems.
Yeah. So in the glass, the water represented the Holy Spirit. So
yeah, but
the thing was, go ahead.
No, go ahead, babe.
It was.
Obviously, you want to go on this.
Well, I mean, let's say what it is.
I know. I was taking a different angle. Go.
Well, go. So you don't want any air, which represented issues or potential issues in your life. You don't want that in yourself. You want to fill yourself all the way up with the full Holy Spirit to the top, overflowing, so that there's no room for the enemy to come in.
Okay, so what I want to thank you. So yes, that's what was presented to us, and then I saw it in a different way that could apply to a marriage relationship, because I feel like when we get, your cup is full when you first get married, all to the top, and you're on your honeymoon and you're overflowing with joy. At least it should be that way, especially in the beginning. Yeah. But then life happens, and then water starts to come out of your full glass, and other things start to fill your glass, whether it be air, whatever. I think that that's what happens, but you have to work on that relationship to fill yourselves back up together. You have to rebuild that, because life is going to happen and water is going to splash out of your glass, and autism will come and almost break your glass, because it's such a hard, just a hard blow, a hard thing to deal with when it comes. And I will tell you that Bryce was diagnosed 2.5 years ago. I'm losing my time. 3.5 years ago. Oh my goodness. So it's been 3.5 years now. And I really thought I had dealt with that. I did. And when he started kindergarten, and then the regular kindergarten didn't work out, he turned 6. My eyes were just clearly open to he's not where I thought he would be at age 6 after early intervention. It knocked a lot of water out of my glass.
Let's talk about that, because I think there's two, so far we've been faced with two major stages of autism. First is obviously when you get the diagnosis. That will hit you like a tidal wave and you're lost. I think the second blow is when you realize your child isn't keeping up with other kids and they're getting older. And obviously it's more obvious now that they're older and they're still like on the 3-year-old level. And now you start to think, oh my goodness, what's this going to be like when they're a teenager? What's it going to be like when they're an adult? Are they going to be able to take care of themselves? So you have this rush of all of these what ifs. What is it going to be like? And you realize now that you're faced with another, I don't want to call it a problem, but an issue where they're not keeping up.
It's a definite concern. It is. And I think it has been hard. And I didn't realize, I guess what I hadn't experienced it, so I didn't realize, is that we're going to go through different milestones I don't know what the word is, but times on this timeline that we'll experience grief again. Mm-hmm. It's not just one time. And that's okay. I just think that maybe because 3.5 years ago I had so much hope that by age 6, he would be on that recovery path that you hear about, and that he would be streamlined, and, he would just be extremely intelligent, and he is, but more like the Asperger's style, that, he's can master school and all that, just some behaviors, but it's different. It's different than what I thought it would be. And you talk about expectations and setting yourself up for disappointment. I guess I did, but not intentionally. And it did knock a lot of water out of my glass. And so then I'm feeling sadness. And of course, I don't want to be sad around you because I don't want to make you sad. But it has been a rough go the past several weeks. But I can see God really just filling my glass back up with different things. With us, we've been able to have some dates. And the first few were, quite frankly, were awkward. Like we didn't even know what to do.
I know.
Isn't that sad? But it's so true. We hadn't had any time together. Like here we have a 4-hour window and you just want to go home because like you don't know what else to do, what else we're going to talk about. I'm like, we have got to figure out how to date again. This is nuts. And it has taken several weeks. But we're starting. We went out last night and the night before. We were blessed to have 2 nights that we could, go out and do that. And it felt so much more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy about that. Like I can feel my glass filling back up. And that's what I really wanted to just give that visual and that analogy, because you are going to feel empty at times, but you have to find things and you have to intentionally fill yourself back up. Mine is a glass of joy. I want my glass to be filled to the brim. I'm a very optimistic person, and pessimism can come and knock joy out of my glass. I don't like that. And I can't be around people that are constantly knocking joy out of my glass. Mm-hmm. I have a problem with that. And I don't want to surround myself with people that do that. I also understand you have to be realistic. So I can't surround myself with people that are constantly telling me, oh, he's going to be just fine, as if, he's going to be completely healed, and that may not happen, because I don't want to have that disappointment. So you kind of have to find that happy medium of who to surround yourself with.
For us, it's surrounding ourselves with people with good marriages.
Yes, that's important.
People that know the Lord.
Some do, some don't, and that's okay too. But yeah,
those are 2 big ones for us.
Yeah,
and this at the stage of Bryce not keeping up, I think this time around it's probably affected you more than me. I can't say why that is, but I'm just optimistic with Bryce because I see his, and I know you are too. Sure. Not to say that you aren't.
I know.
But
I know.
I'm more focused on his progress, and fortunately, he is still making progress and doing new things every week, and that fills my heart when I see those types of things. And we're just different. Some things affect you more than they affect me, and vice versa.
I know, and I think it's important, saying that is when it really affected you and you went through your sad time, I had to be there for you and support you and help bring you out of that. Well, I feel like I need you there to help me through this patch because, I need that right now.
Yeah.
And it's filling back up, but it's still definitely, I just have more awareness. I don't know how to explain it. Like yesterday, we went to that event at the church. And so for Bryce to go, it's okay.
Okay, I hear him calling for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll take a break. Okay, we're back. Bryce was stuck on the potty, so he's potty trained, fortunately, but he still needs help wiping. So I'm chief wiper.
Yes, you are. Yeah, he won't let me do it unless Chris isn't in the house. But anyway, I was just gonna say that yesterday when we were at church, Bryce was really insistent on staying in the classroom he was familiar with, and they had the 3-year-olds in there. And Bryce isn't only 6; he's exceptionally tall for his age. So he looks like he's 7, or older. And I'm just watching him go in there, and he's there with all the 3-year-olds. But he was happy. He had a big smile on his face. He was jumping up and down. It was familiar to him. The lady that came over to stay with him, she was familiar to him. He was not going to go in the other room. And the other room even had a trampoline, and we thought he would like that. But he's just so compartmentalized in his brain that this is what I know, this is where I want to be. I didn't feel sad yesterday. So I want to point that out. That's probably, that before a couple weeks ago would have just made me want to just burst into tears. Nope, I actually felt a little bit of happiness that, he's okay. He's happy. He is happy. It doesn't hurt anybody. He's not aggressive at all. So he's fine with those 3-year-olds. And like you said, maybe he's just more comfortable with them. And maybe he is because they're probably more on his level. They don't notice anything different about him.
Plus if he was in with the 6-year-olds, they'd be asking him questions that he wouldn't know the answers to.
And then they would sense that
so that would probably be uncomfortable for him.
Yeah. So that's that's a good thing that I didn't feel sad. I felt at peace.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm like, he's going to be fine in there.
And at this point, we know how far we can push him before there's trouble, or redirect or put an incentive out there. We know the limits, and we knew that we weren't going to be able to do that at church on that day.
It wouldn't be worth it.
Right.
And I feel like I saw him there looking like, the Jolly Green Giant, the smaller kids. But I was okay. And I think maybe that's a good sign that maybe I'm into the zone of acceptance through this grief period, because it really didn't make me sad. I almost feel like God let me recognize that it's okay. And I'm accepting this. And he's going to be fine. And there may be times where visually it looks like he's out of place, but emotionally and mentally he's where he's supposed to be. And if he's happy, why should I care? He's happy, he's safe, and he had a great time. So I just want to put words of encouragement to the parents out there who are on this journey that, you too will get to that point of acceptance if you're not, because I think we always need to have hope. And I don't see Bryce regressing, which is wonderful. He just isn't progressing maybe at the speed that we thought he may because of all the things we did. I think I felt like we went down a checklist of what you're supposed to do, and we checked everything off that we were aware of. So you hope for these best results. But the reality is Bryce is Bryce, And
Right.
God's created Bryce to be Bryce. And we're not here to change him. We're just here to help him.
And then you just said it. God created him. God has a plan for his life and for our lives with him.
Right.
You know? So we have to go along with his plan.
Right.
And if he wants to change him, then he will.
Yeah. It's about just helping him become to his fullest potential. And I do hear that a lot, you know, and I think that's what every parent wants for every child. It's just it's not college and driving that I'm looking at. I'm just looking at getting him to be able to, as you said, wipe his own hiney.
Yeah.
Life skills, social, communicate, make friends.
We're doing the best that we can, the best that we know how.
Yeah.
And we will not look back later regretting that we didn't.
Right, because we checked everything off the list. So I think that's a great place to wrap this up. You know, but if anybody we're not marriage experts by any shakes, but we're always here to be there for you. And if you need prayer for anything, or you feel like you need prayer for your marriage or for your spouse, for your child, we're here for you.
Or any questions that we can help you with,
any
reach
questions
out to us
as well. I just felt led to put that out there because, you know, I think that's what sometimes people need, and they feel alone. And just know that you've got someone here who's willing to lift you up during this time. And
yeah, I think most people are reaching out through like Facebook and Instagram, and we've had a couple through email. So parentingautism@att.net is the email. And would you probably put those other links in the...
I do. And if you put in Parenting Autism on Instagram or Facebook, you'll find us that way as well. Okay, well, honey, thanks for sitting and chatting with me today. I'm very, very happy and blessed to be married to you. Seriously. We've even had our wedding anniversary since we've done the last podcast.
Yeah, I know. So much has happened.
Happy anniversary. 14 years and counting.
Yep.
And I wouldn't want to do life with anybody else.
Amen. I wouldn't either. So we're good.
All right, peace out.
Till next time. See ya.